Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fan Battle Cast, where we do what we do. Today we have an interesting fight between Hulk and Asura. Now, this matchup's a little weird. It's got a little bit of a. Some people raise some eyebrows at the matchup for a couple of different reasons. One, Asura just had a matchup. Hulk is going to get a matchup very soon in the Scale of Death battle. So people are wondering why this is even a thing. But people want it. This is a passionate matchup for some people. But another reason people kind of look at this matchup a little weird is isn't this such an insane huge stomp? We've got one of the most powerful characters in Marvel versus Asura, who's pretty cool, but he shouldn't be that powerful normally. Well, we did think about that. We unfortunately couldn't find the original picture for this matchup, so we don't actually know the specifics of what they had in mind, like what their vision is. So we thought we would be as general as possible. We would cover as many of our bases as possible. And we're actually going to pit a bunch of different versions of Hulk against Asura to see who stacks up. See, debate-wise, which kind of matchup feels the most debatable. Today I have Archive with me, the debater for Asura. Say hello.
Hey.
We have the Drink. Wasn't expecting him.
That's what they call me.
And we have the Wizard Blizzard chilling in the blizzard. Good to have him.
Hello.
And I am the representative of the Hulk today. I have been a fan of his comics, so I'm really looking forward to talking about it a little bit. So we've got a lot to talk about today, so we're just going to jump right in. We're not going to do the traditional 60 seconds until the very last one, because this kind of... We've got a lot to go through. We're kind of just going to start talking about it. The first Hulk we're going to pit Asura up against today is just normal, standard, modern Hulk, using all of the comics he has to see how he stacks up to that.
Well, I was explaining what happens. Bleh, just like Asura across the room.
I have a couple. I think this image I made earlier kind of just to show off what we're kind of talking about with Hulk's power nowadays, just to give some context. He kind of scales to everyone in Marvel as of modern comics, and there's a lot of ways to talk about the cosmology, but I've made this diagram to kind of explain how high the cosmology gets. I could go into depth about what each of these layers means and how strong that actually is, but to make it as simple as possible, the dark dimension at the very bottom is the first layer into outer, and then everything else on top of that is another level into outer.
Yeah,
So outside is outside of mystery.
Yeah, from what, because recently, he scales the Thor, but he also doesn't scale the Thor, because there's a great video done by Imaginary Axis where he actually covers every single time he has fought Thor, and Thor beats him. I think going off of at that time, there's been a few fights since then, obviously. It was something like they had fought 29 times, and the Hulk only won 5 of them.
I think if we were to do general, if Hulk and Thor had a death battle, and we gave them all their usual stuff,
yeah, Thor
would normally win almost any situation.
Yeah, so wherever but I'm mostly saying this, even with that in mind, if you put Hulk one step below Thor, the most recent thing I know about Thor is he fought an amped Galactus and another amped Galactus level person, and he just one-shots both of them, and then later on he fights Hulk, and Hulk's giving him harder time than both of those people combined. It's just...
So here's the thing.
No, that's a different character.
You motherfucker. All right, here's something to keep in mind. Hulk and Thor have beefed a lot. And the most recent one was when it was basically not Rune King, but King Thor of modern comics versus what was known as Starship Hulk. This was a Hulk that was basically the strongest Hulk we've ever seen, up until the most recent arc where he's now the strongest Hulk we've ever seen. But this was just a version of Hulk that was basically, to make a long story short, Banner took complete control of this Hulk to the point where he was driving the Hulk's body like a starship. That's why it was called that. I don't have scans for this. This wasn't what I was intended to talk about.
Yeah,
but
I've read this.
He's basically like, he looks like a cyborg Hulk because Banner took complete So how it works is...
So it's a Gundam.
Kinda, yeah. The Hulk has multiple consciousnesses inside of his body, and Banner took control of the Hulk part of his consciousness and put it in a simulation of endless conflict, and then used that simulation to basically generate infinite anger and energy for the main Hulk body, which he was in control of like an actual starship.
Oh.
And this Hulk had a fight with a Thor.
Dick move, Banner.
And this Thor scaling is something wild nowadays. He would also be in these mystery to outside ranges, because this version of Thor was like messing with God of Stories Loki, who might be like a top 10 of all of Marvel right now. Thor scaling's a whole another beast. We don't gotta get into that, but him scaling to Thor isn't an anti-feat, and he's gotten even stronger since then. The thing I want to focus on is that he scales to the one above all.
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah, it's okay. Are you going to go into Immortal Hulk, or is this a different version of Hulk?
No, this is Fractured Sun Hulk, which is... I mean, it does go into Immortal Hulk, but...
Okay,
you have something to say about that?
Well, like, if you're gonna, like, because in Immortal Hulk, when the Hulk basically goes like, yo, I'm gonna go into deep body horror, because whoever was, like, wrote that / drew that went like, yo, body horror, it's cool. And like, he does a thunderclap, like, to push away the one below all. That one, I was gonna like debate like if he scales to the one below all because he's able to do that, simply because that's Gamma interacting with Gamma, and it was only very, very temporary. It wasn't like the Hulk punching him in the face. You know what I mean? That's what.
That's not the feat I'm talking about.
Okay, then I don't know what you're talking about.
So, in the most recent Hulk comics, essentially we get more lore about the beginning of creation. We see... So, spoiler alert, the one above all and the one below all are the same person.
What?
Yeah. The one below all is just... The one below all is just the one above all when he gets angry, essentially. He is the dark side of the one above all. It's like...
So he's schizo.
I don't know if that's the right word for it, but essentially they are the same person. At the very end of Immortal Hulk, Hulk was yelling at the one below all, and he was like, show me your true face, who are you? And he was like, very well, and he just, I am the one above all, and he was just talking to the one above all now. They are the same person. So, we see that when the one above all created everything, there's actually stuff outside of the everything he created. There is a entity known as the Mother of Horrors, who created herself and is outside of the one above all's creation. The Mother of Horrors created a son known as the Brother Deep. This was someone that was supposed to, like, she made him to replace the one of all, basically. He is like, he shone brighter than the one above all, is what all the history said. Now, here's what's very, very interesting about this. The one above all, up until this comic, throughout all history, he would use love. That was like his main thing. Love was the main thing one above all used to create everything and do any action. His weapon was love. We see stuff like Oblivion saying, like, and Oblivion's also on the outside. He's one of the strongest abstracts. He said love outscales him. Love is something he can never comprehend and far outstrips him. One above all did not use love to defeat the Brother Deep. The one above all used something stronger. He used his rage.
Oh, no.
And we see that the rage of the one above all is the one below all. And we see that Oh, do I not have the image? Oh, that's horribly embarrassing. Anyway, we have an image. We see that the one above all, his eyes turn green when he's using this power. And Hulk has those same green eyes because he is the anger of the one above all. And this is consistent
Lord.
because the Mother of Horrors once defeated a previous incarnation of God's wrath, and she defeated it, but then that if you're the representative of the one above all's wrath, you're the fractured son, that's what it's called. The Mother of Horrors defeated this version in its base form, quote unquote, but then it was empowered by the one below all, who is the one above all, to defeat him. And then they're like, okay, only the one above all can defeat me. Okay. And then, as of the end of Immortal Hulk, the green door is now closed. So the one above all or the one below all cannot directly interact with creation right now. And the Mother of Horrors was like, aha, now that you don't have God on your side, there's no way you can punch me. And he just punches her and kills her because he has the same rage as the one above all. He is...
Okay, I have a question with that. Is it portrayed like, oh, this is the last bit of fleeting energy from the one above all leaving as I punch you? Or is it like, nah, this is just me now?
That's just him now.
Okay, that's...
Well, Jesus.
I feel...
Hulk is the strongest character in Marvel, potentially, right now.
You see, this is the thing I have. I feel like a lot of people are like, yo, you want to write some Hulk comics? Sure, I'll write some Hulk comics. I'm going to have him punch the strongest people. And like, well, how do you know how strong they are? They're cool. I'm going to just put their face in. Because there is like comics where like the one above all goes to Spider-Man and they talk and they chill. And in that one, they have the one above all portrayed. Like that image that you have in that top tier, I think is taken from that comic where he, by the way, he's not glowing, but for whatever reason, in the every single time you see the image of the one before all, it's an edited image of the panel where he shows up to talk to Peter Parker. And it was like, I think it was during when like Aunt May was dying, and he shows up to Peter Parker and he's like, yo, I'm going to basically explain that all of the suffering in your life matters. And he like shows like all the people he saved. And then Peter Parker goes like, yeah, I get that. It's like, I know. Yeah. Like, he's like, you're not telling me anything I don't already know. All I'm asking is you to do me one solid and not have Aunt May die. And the one above all was like, anyway, just fucking leave. So he's like, well, you're on your own. He's like,
So Hulk right now, he punches as hard as the one above all does. If he lands a punch on you, that I think it's a rap ski for just about anyone in basically all of fiction right now. You could argue like there's certain speed scalings that would be superior. Like maybe if he was to fight the Flash, he would have a really hard time actually landing that punch. But if he does land that punch, it's like it's rap ski for just about anyone.
Yeah, I
buy that.
So in my
Flash, but I buy that.
So I'm actually gonna put up the first poll right now. So what's Asura got for competing with that?
Before we switch to Asura.
I got nothing. Like that's the like here's the thing. I think 9 out of 10 times for the Hulk, or 90 out of 100, whatever you want to go with. I think he's going to be in that limbo tier, or maybe Dark Dimension tier. I think is where your mainline Hulk tends to chill out at his high end, and then for whatever reason, what you just described jumps all the way up there.
Well, the reason it jumps all the way up there is because there's no real reason to stick with the middle of the tiers for the most part with how Marvel has created their stories. Yeah, because once they have characters like Scarlet Witch and Phoenix and those mystery tiers, if they want someone to be the strongest, they just have to be up there. Yeah, there's almost never an occasion to write a story where they're specifically at like Demon Lord Zombs level specifically.
Yeah, but there's so many cool Demon Lords like you could talk about in the Dark Dimension or the other hells. There's at least 7 hells, because like I know Mephisto is the Lord of the 8th Circle, for example. I don't know from the top of my head the other 7. Like show I'm assuming the other ones would have the classic, like, oh, the 7 deadly sins. Like, there's a wrathful one. There is the gluttonous one. I'm assuming, or that might already be a different thing in Marvel, because
I don't know the specifics on how hells work. Theoretically, the Dark Dimension is one of them. The world beyond all worlds is not a hell. It's essentially like a prison that exists outside of eternity's perception.
It's not
hell though.
Well, that's not what I was saying. I was saying, like, you could have like minor hell lords and tell really cool stories, and you could make them really powerful. Like when I say really powerful, I mean like they could threaten to blow up a solar system. That could be like a new X-Men's like battle or something, and they have to do tricky stuff. But everything in Marvel and DC has to get a little bit bigger than before. It's like a terrifying power creep.
Yeah.
Like for their big stories. Within their own mainline stories, for the most part, they try to stay in the ballpark that they meant to be. Like Batman's mainline stories are fighting people who are like street level and shit, and then Superman's fighting people who are, I'm going to say like solar system. Like if I'm going with verses, though, it's not that important, like for a story. But when they have to have bigger stories, they have to go bigger than the previous cosmology stuff.
Yeah, that's just how it is. If you're going to the top, you gotta jump to the top, and the top is really big in Marvel nowadays.
And with the Hulk, I love the Hulk, I really do. If you want him like to show off how cool his powers are, I'm stronger than I was before. So he is the epitome of that issue in comics.
Well, to be fair, I think like I will not disparage the modern comics. Like I think the person who's been writing Hulk has been killing it. Honestly, the story is really good.
I'm not talking. Yeah, the quality of writing. Like I love Immortal Hulk. Like that's one of my favorite runs of the Hulk period.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about the writing at all. I'm just talking about from a power scaling perspective. It's the one thing I could argue maybe for like Asura dealing with the modern Hulk, and it's like a very cheap like thing, is I think like when the Hulk killed her, that was when he was super hyper ultimate I am pissed off mode, right? I'm assuming. I think
sure.
Like if
he was definitely really angry when he punched her.
Yeah, like I don't know the context, like you said, like most of it, but was it like they were fighting while he was powered up and then she shut it off, or was it like she shut it off and that was the first punch he threw? I guess. Well,
she had been torturing him for a while, so he was definitely about as pissed as it gets for the most part.
So I'm saying like if this was like freshly Bruce Banner turning into Hulk versus base Asura, and I think Asura would be able to be stronger than him and be able to potentially kill him then if it's like fresh Hulk versus base Asura. And like I think Asura wins. Barely.
I will say he did kill the Brother Deep, who we were just saying was like supposed to be comparable to the One Above All, very casually.
Okay, then no.
Yeah, but
that was my only discussion point. Yeah. Like that was it for mainline Hulk.
Yeah. So I that Wizard Lizard Moloch, either you voting for Asura?
Nah, man.
I would, but Hulk hit him so hard he no longer exists, so Hulk's my only option. But one quick thing I wanted to ask about the Hulk at his peak. He's so powerful now, he can hit beings that are like in a higher form of existence than him.
Yeah.
Like this is nothing to do with this debate, but like because right now we're trying to, it's a little bit awkward, like not awkward, unique. I mean, my prediction for like Hulk versus Godzilla, I don't think they're gonna go with that level of scaling. Like if they do,
that'd be lame if they didn't. That's just the modern Hulk nowadays.
Well, like the reason why I'm thinking that is it sounds like it was like residual power from the one above all. Like that would be like my reasoning not to include it.
But the thing is, that's not like from a temporary power up. That's just That's literally
Yeah, it's
just
just
him.
him now.
Hulk himself is the counterbalance to the one above all. That's just
Yeah, I get
what
it.
he's
Like
at.
it's
Like,
him now, so you
like
can't take it away.
it's a like
yeah.
that just I
Unfortunately,
think he
Asura,
did
in terms of debate wise, doesn't stack much to the
like
entire Marvel
so
cosmology.
who
But then we
can
got
we
the other
go
Hulks,
No,
right?
no, he's Azra. He punches the best. He should have beaten. He should have beaten Kratos. Okay.
Okay, can I cover a little bit about Kratos versus Asura, just like from a
No.
versus perspective?
No, shut the shut up.
We'll be here
Shut
in
up.
a
We
whole
are
What the hell?
talking
Lore
about
Master's here
Kratos.
now.
I think most
Yeah,
of the
I know.
versus
I was
supposed to originally
be here.
The
I
Kratos
thought the
versus
stream had
Asura
started at
discussions.
4, and then I had to take care of my dog at 3. So I was away from my computer. Didn't realize the stream was happening, and I didn't get here until like 20 minutes after it started. And I was like, "Oh
You're
shit,
here
the
now.
stream started!" Like,
Okay, so
like-
what do you want to cover next? Because mainline
so-
Hulk going, especially with that, is like
Yeah.
Asura lose.
So I'll just finish that poll. Oh, look, it's 100% in favor of the Hulk. Anyway, so we got a Hulk sweep for round 1. We're moving on to round 2. We have...
Okay, at least I'm here for the interesting stuff.
Alright. We do have... It does sound like we're hearing a lot of background noise from your end, Dark Lord Master, so I don't know what's up with that, but...
Oh yeah, it's because
Just
my mic is absolute ass. Sorry.
well, good to know. Just keep that in mind. Next up, we have Hulk from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People
And
might...
here-
I have no scans for this one because I watched the movies once and that was enough. But I have some thoughts on the scaling for the MCU that I think if you hear me out might be pretty interesting. Might be a bit higher than people were considering.
Okay.
So we have... Just talking about basic scaling for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have Thor, Love, and Thunder. We have Gore. Gore is kind of portrayed as a threat to all the gods. Everyone who is at, like, the god orgy party Zeus was throwing were at risk of dying to Gore if Gore found it. It wasn't... They were scared of Gore finding them. They couldn't just gang up on him and beat him. Gore could potentially kill all of them. Now, why is this relevant? Why is this important? What's so impressive about the gods in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What is impressive is that there were Celestials at this god orgy. And Celestials can survive the Big Bang. So, we have Gore, who can kill people that can survive the Big Bang. That's pretty cool. That's pretty impressive. Why would Hulk scale to this? Why this is not Hulk scaling, this is Gore scaling. The reason is, if we use the strongest version of Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we would use the one from the What If universe. It's like, what version of Hulk is so strong? And in What If, Hulk, there is one episode called What If the Mecha Avengers Fought the Hulk? And this version of the Hulk filled himself with so much gamma radiation that... Well, first, the kaiju split off of himself and became a kaiju that was the main antagonist. But then he filled himself with even more gamma radiation, and then he himself became a kaiju that was as strong as this other kaiju. And just to put some chain scaling in place, there was normal Thor. And then there was Thor that was using a mech armor, so this should be an even more powerful Thor. If it wasn't more powerful than him, then why would he be using the armor in the first place? And then we
Because it
have
looks sick.
the armies of Hulk Kaiju, because a Hulk Kaiju can spawn armies of himself, that could kill this Hulk, this Thor that was empowered by a mecha suit. And then we have the Ultimate Avenger, who was like a Voltron where all the mechs fuse together, who could defeat this army of Hulks. And then above that, we have the actual Hulk Kaiju, the main one, who was able to defeat this. So we have several steps in power above normal Thor. So I think it's fair to say that the strongest version of Hulk would actually be comparable to the Big Bang levels that Gore is at.
The question for me is like, I hate that they did it because the MCU used to be universe 19. It was like 19,999,999. It was like 1,999,999.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I don't have the notes up. Like I could share my screen. I just remembered it. It was something like that, and then they changed it that the MCU is now the 1,6 the 619. Oh, I can't say words. 616.
616.
Yes, which I don't like personally. So the MCU 616 Hulk, like I feel like when you say MCU Hulk, it's that is what if MCU Hulk. So that's almost like two different Hulks.
Well, if we want to use normal MCU Hulk, he has the Infinity Gauntlet, so there we go.
So, but he almost gets his arm blown off from like it's not even, if you think about it, that feat is not 50% universal. There is, because it's only people, like vaporizing a person, like this is like, it's so,
The Infinity Gauntlet would scale above the Celestials. That would scale to the Big Bang, though.
does the Infinity Gauntlet, well, the thing is, does mainline MCU, I'm going to just say the MCU, and when I say that, I'm referring to not What If. I'm going to differentiate that. I'm going to say the MCU, and there is the What If. I don't think he scales to the full gauntlet because it eviscerates his arm after one snap, and that's not releasing all of the Infinity Gauntlet's power, because like that is only vaporizing people, and it nearly destroys the gauntlet.
But he still would have the gauntlet enough to get like one shot off on it.
Yeah,
so he could still snap away Asura. But we're not talking about that Hulk. We're talking about Kaiju Army Hulk.
Okay, so that, yeah, one times, yes, Big Bang. I don't think there's any cosmology in the MCU that covers like, oh, Celestials make like time, space, hyper time. I don't think they've covered that yet.
There technically is, but that's from Loki's show, and Hulk doesn't scale to that at all.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a good way to scale to Loki right now. But the
No,
MCU
don't you
is always
remember when
and the
remember
Hulk is
when
hot
Hulk
right now.
absolutely beat Loki's ass? That means that he logically scales above Loki within the show, meaning Hulk is actually fifth dimensional and Asura is dead once again. GG's.
Okay.
The man's making sense. The man's making sense.
You know, speaking of Asura, we
Yeah,
haven't even
actually,
talked
if
about
you
him yet,
think
huh?
about it,
Well, I was gonna go into Asura a little bit.
okay, wait. Actually, I do want to say something. Technically, the Loki scene within the Loki show is the one right after he got his ass beaten by Hulk. So technically, you could do that scaling if you want to.
No, I think if you're talking about when he grabs like all of the threads of all of the universe and holds them in his hands, he had centuries more time. That's not right after, because he masters time slipping. Like, yes, in reality, it was like I would say a few months maybe of actual time passing, like in real life. But to him, because of his mastery of time slipping, it's centuries to millennia more. So to say, oh, that's Loki right after he got his ass kicked by Hulk, in no way, shape, or form is true.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say you are absolutely lame for denying me my multi-plus MCU Hulk, and I will be seeing your mother after the stream is done.
Whoa.
You found her?
It's not that deep.
Also, my mother is the concept of stories. So here is.
What is Asura gonna do against an army of Big Bang level Hulks? I'm passing the ball to you now. What's he gonna do?
Okay, so we all know I'm going to cover the death battle a little bit because I think most people here are going to be familiar with it. They put the destruction of the statue at 91,000 times the total mass energy of the universe, and the total mass energy of the universe is equal to one Big Bang, because that's like it's the energy required to make everything, and a Big Bang makes everything. So that's 91,000 times Big Bang. So does he have 91,000?
He might have 91,000 minions that he could. So if you add them all together,
yeah. If they added, if he somehow, like, I don't recall they ever giving. I watched that one if episode. It's okay. It's to me, but like, I do not like Kaiju Hulk design. It looks weird to me, but if you combine every single one of them, they wouldn't match up, because one, I personally think that's a low ball, because that is based off the destruction of the statue, not the creation of the statue. Because in Azura's Wrath, and this is my opinion. Other people disagree with it too, but like other people say, "Oh, that's fair," and other people go like, "No." But then again, people argued with me for a while about like how much the statue weighed, because the statue weighs like 7 quintillion times the mass of the universe, which is insane. But people are like, it can't be that heavy. I'm like, gold is freaking heavy, and most of the universe is empty. So
you make a fair point. How fast is Asura? Because MCU actually does have some pretty interesting speed feats.
Okay, going off again, the death battle. So, well, I was going to finish with the statue. That there's two ways you can interpret it. There's the low end idea of creating the statue is not just 91,000 times the mass energy of the universe. It's actually 7 quintillion times the mass energy of the universe, because Chuck Verdon waves their hand and uses their mantra pool to create it out of their energy. So, like, even if that's absolute maximum Chakra Vartan, and like we assume it took him like that's insane as a concept. 7 quintillion times like the universe. Like, I'm not saying he would still win in the death battle. I'm saying that that's in my interpretation of the creation of that statue. But going with the 91,000, he fights Chakra Vartan in Chakra Vartan's he doesn't have a name for his first form, so I'm just gonna call that Chakra Vartan's first form. And he's fighting him in his mantra form, and then he gets stronger and then beats him. And then he's able to excuse me. And then Chakra Vartan goes into his creator form, and then he if you can post up my image of gonna have to scroll Asura Evolution 1. Could you pull that up?
Yes.
People are going to be familiar with this, and this is the thing that the Death Belt didn't cover. Yay, the gift works. Oh crap! No, it failed.
Oh no,
that was the whole gift.
Oh fuck! I'm so sorry then.
Dang.
finger.
So no, it's not. Like I clicked on it. There.
Wait.
Okay, I think it just went.
I saw it.
Yep.
Finger.
He's able to block a full-blown punch from Asura, like with one finger, and he throws him away. It doesn't kill Asura, obviously. It heavily damages him. But that's one finger. And then if you can post evolution number 2, this is like 10 minutes later.
Oh, Jesus.
It's happening again.
No, it's fully loaded on my end. Like, it goes from, with one finger I can blow you away in one of your most powerful forms, to a full-blown punch from me to your forehead doesn't hurt you, and it nearly breaks my arm.
Jeez.
So the creation, like the statue, like blowing, like I'm saying, like blowing up of that statue, Asura should be way, way above just by how fast he's evolving in this fight. And even if it wasn't, let's say 91,000 is his peak and he doesn't scale above it, going off of the idea from Versus Battle Wiki that say 7.5 times power level is one shot. He almost gets one shot, and then this is almost like borderline like a one shot. So it's like a 5 times. I'm going to say, just for the hell of putting numbers on it and or a rough estimate, let's say 3. It's like a 5 times. Let's say a 3. I'm going to say 5 times power difference from Mantra Asura to Chakra Vartan the Creator. And then later in the fight, base form Asura is 5 times stronger than Chakra Vartan the Creator. So that's like a 25 power jump in, actually way greater than that if you go off the idea that Mantra Asura is way, 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 way higher. But like low, and like because obviously his super forms are an amp. Like people argue there is the idea that he no longer needs the super forms. All of his energy is now just permanently released in his base form. which that may be
Pretty good.
true at the very end of that fight, but he had to have adapted to that middle of fighting Chakra in the Creator. So that 25 times amp mid fight is probably a low ball. Like, honestly. And he gets stronger even more after that scene where Chakra Burton punches him. I think, and so, like, going off, so let's say that the MCU Hulk and every single kaiju Hulk we see is Big Bang, is universal. And he has like 100,000 of them, like, which I don't think they ever say that there's that many. Asura, just give him 10 minutes. And he's one-shotting all of them.
Does Asura have a resistance to gamma radiation poisoning?
He has heavy resistance to... Well, radiation is just high amounts of energy. Like, and mantra is just pure energy. So, like, radiation is just... It's just a wavelength of energy. Like you have a resistance to UV radiation. It's just like it, but it's like
update the scaling profiles for Fan Battle Cast. I have resistance to UVs.
I'm saying you as a human. Gamma is just a very high level of energy. Like radiation is like a scale, and it's just a wavelength of energy. And if mantra is just a very high potential of it, like it's not that crazy to say it could be like if I'm able to tank like pure energy hitting me, I'm pretty sure I can resist high end radiation. There is also example, I forget the name of the Goma exactly. No, there is multiple types of Goma. Let me look at my notes real fast, please.
Well, while you're looking at your notes, I would like to point out that I think there's a feat where the Bifrost is 6 quadrillion times faster than light, and Hulk would scale to that because Gore scales to the Bifrost in speed.
There is a 2 point, like in the Death Battle, they cover a 2 point. There is a 2.5 quintillion laser, which I've also run math for it, and it comes out about the same. Like, there's 2 ways you can do it. You either go like off that cutscene and you go like, oh, the laser passes the same distance as a galaxy in like 0.00 whatever seconds, like within a matter of like a single frame. It covers like the 100,000 light years, which I think that's what the Death Battle did. But if you also go off of, okay, we know how big the statue is, we can then use angles of like how many degrees that statue takes up of our vision, how far away from Earth, and then we know how long it takes for that laser to reach Earth, which is like, and using that, you can also get pretty dang close to that same number. Like, and while flying to the statue, the lasers reach Asura, who's like halfway through in like a single frame. So it's probably it goes quintillion. It goes.
I think it's quadrillion then quintillion. So you would.
Yeah, it goes quadrillions, quintillions, septillions. So that laser could be septillions times the speed of light in gameplay. Going off of cutscene, it's quintillions. Because in cutscene, it's 2.5 quintillion. I believe, if we're going off of what Death Battle did, they could have done the angle thing that I just described, and I could be completely wrong. But anyway. If the Bifrost is quadrillions, Asura is still thousands of times faster. And back to go to the radiation thing, because I found my note, the Goma glider, the big puffer fish, in the Zura's Wrath manga, I was about to say Dragon Ball Kai. It's Azura's Wrath Kai. Those things release so much poison off of their quills that it like melts metal. Which that doesn't make sense. And Asura gets like fights those things and gets impaled by those things constantly, and he does not care. But I do want to say one other thing that I find hilarious, and I want to point this out because it's a scaling to another Goma, but in a different way.
This isn't the only Hulk you're up against. You don't gotta drop all your Asura scaling on MCU Hulk.
No, this is just
No, drop it now, so then Santi can plan ahead.
okay. No,
You're only making his argument
no.
stronger
You
in the
asked
long
my
run.
speed. You were asking speeds. Like
You answered my question. All right,
okay.
What other high speed stuff do you have for Asura?
Oh, I have a funny thing that I'm going to ask. Like how? Yeah. Like how? Like that was my answer to how does Asura beat 100,000 Big Bang Hulks? Wait 10 minutes. But I have
Can he?
yeah, like if he's 91,000 base and within 10 minutes he gets a 25 times amp.
I guess that is fair. Well, what's your other speed thing you said you wanted to bring up?
This one, Asura's ability to come back to life, from what I know, is directly in proportion to his level of power. Because when he fights when he fights Goma Vitra the first time, he's like large continent because when he punches it, like you can calc that, and like that's
Yeah.
large continental, and he dies effectively the same day. It could be like a few days later, but whatever. And that takes him 12,000 years. And then he blows up Wizen, which is planet level. And then it takes him 500 years. And then he dies after fighting the Goma Horde, after fighting August. And following that same trajectory, August laughs at Wizen. And once more, going off of the idea versus Battle Wiki, what a one-shot is, assuming that laughing means, oh, I could beat him casually.
You don't always have to justify all your reasonings for how strong someone is. You can just say because they're this much stronger.
I'm sorry, I'm used to text debates, because in text debates you have to restate your reasoning every couple paragraphs.
You're losing someone's voted for Hulk on you, so you better.
Okay. So he keeps
That
going.
might have been me.
And then it goes to like 3 days. If you follow that like mathematically, like enter in AP and then in time, and you follow that ratio, but if you increase his power like 10%, he would be coming back in a Planck instant. And if he's crossing any distance while running back to life, like how I don't know what number you could throw onto that. Like I didn't calculate it because I asked like a friend, and he's like, in a like math server, and he was like, oh, like it's within Planck time. There is no mathematical number that you could slap to it. Like, and that's after only a 10% increase. You could like, and I believe, like, off of that idea, he's able to run in Planck time. Like, even if that's just a 100-meter dash to resurrect, like that's a speed feat that you could in theory give him. Like that's just only me. I am the only person that will ever have this. But if we're following the logic of power equates to his speed and or his rate of resurrection, and his rate of resurrection requires him to move. If he is able to come back to life in a Planck instant, he has to move some distance. Like that's the logic.
We can delve more into that when we have a Hulk that can actually kind of keep up with those kinds of speeds. But
yeah, okay.
My counter to him coming back to life is with the Infinity Gauntlet. He has the Soul Stone. GG. So what do you guys think in jury? Who y'all think is gonna win this one? We'll start with you, Moloch. Who you think wins?
You know, I actually think it's Asura this time. Honestly.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I mean, even if you did give him the Infinity Gauntlet, like we already know from the movie, he's only using that thing like at most once. Like, let's be honest.
And he'll win with that once. There we go. Snap.
Will he
GG.
though? Because the Chandra Varden.
Well, I mean, there's the
whatever
question on
guy.
like if he did snap, would Hulk know? Oh wait, I gotta make sure that this guy's soul is gone or whatever, so that I can't revive.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Like you have to be very deliberate with what you're wishing for when you do it.
Right. So we have one vote for Asura. How about you, Wizard Lizard? I know you got my back.
You did bring up a lot of stuff about the Hulk that I was not aware of. Though it does feel like we're amalgamating the MCU Hulk and his what if counterpart a bit. Because I don't know if the kaiju gets the gauntlet or the one with the gauntlet gets the kaiju.
Fair. We have never seen Kaiju Hulk use the Infinity Gauntlet. I cannot deny that.
I don't even think he could. He's way too large for it.
No, Tony could build a gauntlet large enough for Kaiju
We
Hulk.
do
don't
see
worry.
he has like mechs that are the same size, so he could build a gauntlet that big
Well,
if he
he-
wanted to.
In theory.
In theory, he could, but that would consist of prep time, I feel.
If we say Kaiju Hulk is
Eh.
as Smart Hulk, then he would also have the brains necessary to construct the gauntlet. And there we go. That's why he.
Okay,
wins.
but here is my counter argument for Kaiju Hulk using the Infinity Gauntlet. He's too big. He can't wear it.
But we just said okay.
Like that's my counter argument. He's too big. Like he has to wait a few months for someone to commission a giant gauntlet. He's just sitting there, just.
So we got 2 votes for Asura, but Dark Lore Master, I know.
Hey, I
know.
didn't vote yet.
Oh, you didn't? Never. I apologize. You're voting for Hulk.
Ultimately, yes.
Oh,
The Infinity Gauntlet, even though I do feel he's only going to get one shot, I do think that one shot is enough.
I got one via very ungenuine means. Yes. All right. Dark Lore Master, what do you think?
All right, Sanity. I know
Look,
you put a lot of work into your Hulk arguments. You watched Thor: Love and Thunder, for God's sakes. But
Jesus.
I did do that.
Asura's winning this one.
All
Sorry,
right.
champ. Better luck next time.
and here is a thing with the snap. If I could, maybe sway one more time with it, it takes him a minute to focus, and he can't really move.
oh.
It
So
doesn't take him like a whole minute.
someone time out the scene where he puts on the gauntlet and he's getting
Bet.
yelled at, just bring everyone back. Don't that's all, bring them
We
back
don't-
and bring them back here.
We don't
Don't
need to
put
do
him
that. It's all right. So the poll thinks Asura wins 85%. So yeah, it looks like Asura is beating MCU Hulk.
Yeah.
I don't think giving Hulk being legit the Infinity Gauntlet is completely non-standard and almost unusable. That's not, you wouldn't give it. MCU Hulk would not get the Infinity Gauntlet in a fight unless it was like some weird tech fight, and then maybe it could be considered part of all the tech he's used, but not enough a fight like this. That wouldn't be.
It'd be like a theoretical peak match.
But I will
debate,
say, the MCU is definitely getting more content before Asura's Wrath is. There very
No,
well
Asura's
could
Wrath
be
2 is
something
coming
that
out in,
gives
the next
him
3
more
months.
stuff
Come on.
in the future. So who knows? Maybe one day the MCU Hulk could actually compete with Asura in scale. The verse just keeps getting more and more powerful as time goes on. That is not impossible.
Yeah.
The next Hulk I wanted to bring up is a Hulk that no one was expecting. We have one of my favorite versions of the Hulk. We have Hulk from the 4-issue run of Space Punisher. This Hulk looks like this. He's got 4 arms. That's all the connections you need in a fight against Asura.
Asura has 6 though.
But yeah, but the multiple arms. That's the connection.
What is that? Wait, who is that? The leader he's crushing? What the
That
fuck?
is the leader, yes. So this version of the Hulk is from a literally 4-issue long series. I think it was supposed to get a sequel where the Avengers are a fascist dictatorship over
Oh my god.
it was the Avengers are Palpatine, and I was down, but that never happened. So I'm a little bummed. But anyway, this is kind of just a guy who runs through space and just runs people's fades. And he's actually got some pretty decent scaling because, just kind of give an idea for the scale we're dealing with, the Space Punisher has planet-destroying weaponry. Look at that. He's holding the planet hostage. I think that's pretty cool. So Punisher has planet-level weaponry. That's just the scale we're working with the Space Punisher. But also, the Space Punisher does... Oh, thank you, Moloch has timed it, and it takes a minute to snap the gauntlet.
Told you. So that's legitimate gunner. Like I'm not to sound like a dick. Are those the Watchers of that universe?
That he is killing
Wait,
multiple
what?
Watchers very easily.
Oh god, I was tuning out. What's happening?
The whole
Oh, okay. So essentially, this is a version of the Hulk from like a 4-issue comic run, who literally all he does is just run across the universe and beat people up, steal their lunch money, and then go find other people to beat up and steal the lunch money.
I believe that. It
essentially what
looks like
this
he's
is.
killing babies right now.
he is killing 6 Watchers in this page very
Oh
easily.
no.
One-shotting all of them. And why this is important is Watchers are in a similar cosmological space as like a Molecule Man, where like they're at a similar power level throughout any kind of version they are in. So this would scale to just the mainline Watchers. And we also have a statement where the Galactus in this story is as strong as mainline Galactus, so we do have general consistency that the Watchers and Galactus would be a similar level to normal Watchers. And I could kind of play around with like the scale, like, ooh, how strong are Watchers? I'll just bring it out right now. I'll bring out the big thing. The Watchers are 12th dimensional. This is when a Watcher self-destructed and it was able to leave faults in space and wrinkles in time, creating a 12th dimensional superstring tied up with the power of its killing itself.
Damn.
So Space Punisher Hulk is 12th dimensional. I think that's pretty cool. He one-shots 12th dimensional beings, I should say. So it's a very short comic run, so just a very short... I could, like, play around with, like, Watcher scaling, be like, oh, there's some 4th dimensional feats, some 5th dimensional feats, some infinite speed. But, you know, I just ripped the Band-Aid off the 12th dimensional.
I do have... I do have a really dumb logic that I could say that Asura could maybe get that
I've been
high, but
using
something...
dumb logic this whole time. Go for it.
Okay, so this is stuff, like, I don't agree with this. I'd rather focus on what's just early in Asura's game, not implications. Azura's Wrath, like, the universe of Azura's Wrath is the same universe of Street Fighter, and there is a canonical, like, Capcom shared multiverse. Like, that's why there is Marvel versus Capcom, for example, because it's connecting the multiverse of Marvel with the multiverse that is Capcom. And there is a statement coming from Chocolate Barton saying, oh, at the very end of the game, he's like, oh, I'm going to dip out now because the universe here, like, I nailed it. I did a great job. You know, billions are dead. No, trillions are dead because 7 trillion souls. Like, this kid has been tortured for, 12,000 years. I did a great job. I'm going to go clock out and I'm going to check out other universes that may need my help. And he feels pretty confident. And in the Capcom universe, multiverse, there is Devil May Cry.
Okay. Do you have 12th dimensional scaling for Devil May Cry, good sir?
They have like low multiversal scaling, and there is apparent, like, people say that there's dimensional scaling in DMC, but I'm not like a DMC person that well, so whatever that is, so I'm gonna just say he scales to the highest dimensional that is in DMC, which is gonna...
Jarvis, bring up the fake DMC scans.
Yeah, someone bring up the fake DMC scans for me.
I scale Devil May Cry a lot higher than most people. Back when, like, Vegeta versus Virgil was a big thing, I was always in Virgil's camp. I think I think the best scaling they had was like 5th dimensional.
Yeah,
there was like 9th dimensional scans, which used to be a thing, but it turns out they were all faked. Which was I think the biggest scaling like heist I've ever seen. I don't know, like they had like hundreds to thousands of people convinced that like Devil May Cry just scaled that high legitimately.
Yeah, because like I think that was in the blog, right? Like,
yeah, it was in the Dante versus Bayonetta blog, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like there is some idea that you could legitimately put Chocolate Verdon at like 4-5D arguably, like, and not like without doing the DMC too much, because he did make... There are statements that Naraka is infinite, and he made Naraka, and he made the universe. It's unclear the actual like main body of the universe in Azura's Wrath is also infinite,
Mm.
and he is able to control time. Asura grows so powerful, like he's able to just resist it, so he just doesn't really use it after a certain period of time in their fight. So him being above 4D, which 4D is just time, and him being able to create an potentially infinite dimension in Naraka could legitimately put him at like 4 or 5D. And if you're saying like, oh, DMC does get the 5D, and there is the idea that Chakravartin feels comfortable hopping around to however many other Capcom worlds there are, which I think there's 110 Capcom universes. I think. Because 110. That's what I could find looking up. I actually did look a little bit about the Capcom cosmology, just a little bit, and it's listed as 110. And if he feels confident, like going toe to toe with the heavy hitters of the rest of Capcom, you could argue that he could end up like throwing hands with Dante and being a hard to fight for Dante.
I would pay for that Devil May Cry DLC, but
oh, that would be, you don't know how hard that would go on Azura's Wrath, like
Chakavar just shows up in hell post DMC5. I would love
like
that.
Nah,
you understand how hard, like I would lose my mind. And then like Chakavartin's killed, and then like Yasha slowly like lowers down, and he's like, because he's dead now, and he's like, and then he's like,
that would certainly make people stop doubting the uni-scaling for Devil May Cry.
Yeah, like, but that's my argument. Like, but yeah, 12D is still like, it's.
I'm not.
That is 7 times infinite, 7 more infinites.
I'm not gonna belabor the point too much with Watcher Galactus scaling because I feel like I've won. But to bring up some funny things with Space Punisher Hulk, he can hear through space. Like, the reason he kills the Watchers is because Punisher plays a noise that is really annoying to him on a different planet. So he, like, flies across the galaxy to beat up the Watchers.
Well,
and also...
So wait, he's just got that Superman feed where he's just like, yes, I can hear through nothing.
Honestly, he does have that. But also another funny thing about his powers, I will say the comic's kind of vague about this. Sometimes it looks like he's just flying. But it does seem like when he's going through space, he is just kind of standing and running. So he kind of just runs through space.
Okay.
Like, sometimes he flies like Superman, but sometimes he's like running on nothing, and it's hilarious.
Okay. But you're
just
like,
imagine like they're fighting in space, and Hulk is just doing like 100-meter dead sprint to get to you in space.
Well, space isn't completely empty. That would imply that he's somehow running on dark matter.
Oh, that's dope as hell.
Like, there is like, because the universe was like mathematically was like 40%. They were like, hey, all this math makes sense if the universe was like 140% heavier. No, it was like 1.4 times heavier. And like, this doesn't make sense, but like that doesn't make sense. And so they were like, okay, there's mass in the universe that we don't really can measure at the moment, and we're going to call that dark matter.
So how are we feeling about this debate, jury? Moloch, who do you think wins between Space Punisher, Hulk, and Asura?
To me, it just sounds like a D diff. This sounds like a D diff to me.
Just too many dimensions?
Too many dimensions.
Yeah.
Right. How about you, Wizard Lizard? Do you concur or have a difference of opinion?
Well, at first I was going to go Hulk due to higher dimension scaling, but then we brought over the other Capcom franchises, and which means Asura scales to Akuma, who in my playthrough of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 beat Galactus, who transcends dimensions. So
I wasn't going to stats debate now.
I will say, not to support my opponent, but there is a page in, like, I think the Darkstalker Street Fighter crossover where Akuma breaks out of a dimension that is, I think it's stated to be beyond all, I think it universes, timelines, and dimensions. Okay, separating dimensions from universes, implying Akuma in the crossover is outerversal. Yeah, so if we're using that logic.
But can I also downplay my side and say, if there was a Akuma, like if Chakravartin was like in the Chuck Burton and Asura were in the next like Capcom versus Marvel game, like there would be like a scene where like that Thanos scene where it's like, haha, I'm going to take the Sasune Ohado and I'm going to leave after and he betrays everyone. Chuck Burton would try to betray everyone and like he would beat everyone, and then Akuma would show up and go like, you. And like Akuma would beat the shit out of Chucker Barton. That would be
But
the
don't
story.
Akuma and Asura have
I
just
love
like
how-
a tied fight?
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like Akuma would beat the shit out of Chucker Barton.
I love how Akuma has become like the Yujiro Hanma of fighting games.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
what I'm.
He is the strongest TM.
Like he.
Yeah, I mean,
Alright.
he is the strongest. He punches the best.
Yeah, so if I was not looking at the shared multiverse of Marvel and Capcom. I was just looking within the multiverse of Capcom for Azura.
I do
So
like
was-
that this is a Marvel versus Capcom fight. That is kind of fun.
Yeah. Like, which, come on, put him in the game. It's already a great mod.
I
where
think
he
we all
is-
want Asura in Marvel versus Capcom 5.
Like he could, like,
Please, you all want more Asura and Marvel versus Capcom. I want Asura and Street Fighter. We are not the same.
Also, a
he's
good
already
option.
in Street Fighter. Like he
yeah,
is the
but I
grand.
want him as an actual fighter.
I know we all want it.
Okay, imagine a fucking modernized version of Asura where he's got like a tank top and he loves his daughter, and that's in his like intro or something.
That would be
peak
great.
fiction. Please,
I know.
Capcom. I know you're not watching this, but please.
Oh yeah, like we gotta just so.
So, Dark
Yeah,
Lord
like,
Master, you're the last one. Who are you voting for? Capcom scaling Asura or Watcher scaling Hulk?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna vote for the Martian Manhunter reject, Hulk.
I'll take it. Alright, so ending the poll, which is 100% favor of Hulk, more so than Asura during the MCU fight. That's interesting. So we have 3 votes for Hulk and 1 for Asura. That is so far the first fight that has not been a sweep, because Asura actually got a vote this time. Now, I think at this point we will now enter the actual debate, because I believe this is genuinely the most debatable version of this matchup, which is Savage Hulk, or otherwise known as Hulk from the 60s.
Yeah.
I think Hulk actually has a lot of stuff in the 60s. His comics are really fun to read back then. So I think we're actually going to go back to the traditional format with the 60 seconds for like the last 10-20 minutes of this.
Okay.
And would you like to start, or would you like me to start for the 60 seconds?
Let me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's stupid. And like Asura is one of the coolest characters that you
Is
either
your 60 seconds starting?
Yeah,
Alright.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Asura is the demigod of wrath. He is the definition of the righteous anger. He is the one who would challenge all of the bullshit ideas of trials and tribulations that mortals have to go through to earn like nirvana, effectively, in this false Buddha that is Chakravartin, and these false gods of Deu and Deus, Sergei, Zin, all just representations of sin ultimately. Meanwhile, he is the ultimate representation of more or less righteous anger. He's faster than you think, he's stronger than what you think, and he's larger than what you think. And that's gonna be the fun thing. And I'm good.
All right. I now have my piece to say on the Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk is a savage. He's just there to whoop your ass. He is the strongest one there is, and he proves it a lot. He pulls up on Odin. He pulls up on Thor. He pulls up on Hercules. He fights Doctor Strange. He is there to just prove that when it comes to just running the ones, he's got your ass and he's going to beat you. He is the strongest one there is, and that's kind of all I have to say about it. But the 60s in a weird way, it's kind of like SCP in the way it's written, where they just keep adding like a new issue. Is like, wouldn't this be weird? Let's have Hulk fight this and win by punching it. He has some genuinely good Marvel scaling, even back in the '60s, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it because he's a really funny character back then, and he's gonna throw Asura into space. So yeah. But Hulk is hilarious in the '60s because he just throws everyone. Like that's like he walked up to Heimdall one time because Loki teleported on the bridge, and Heimdall was like, "Hey, bro, you can't be here." And Hulk just picked him up and threw him into space. He loves throwing people.
Which like this is unrelated to this debate, but that's a win con in a lot of fights that's like against the rules to include. Like,
why is it against the rules?
Because like a win con for like, imagine the like best example is like in my mind for some reason, most is Raiden versus Wolverine. I'm 100% convinced because of how strong he has to be able to throw that Metal Gear like 200 meters up in the air. If he grabbed Wolverine, who is significantly lighter, and when he's way stronger, and he just spun around and threw really hard, I think Wolverine might go into orbit.
I think
Hey, we get around the adamantium skeleton debate that way. It's just like, it's in space now. Who cares?
Yeah, like
I think throwing someone into space is a valid win con if they've ever actually done that. If that's a thing they do. Like, you can't just say theoretically they should be strong enough to do that. If that is like part of their fighting style or strategy to throw someone into space, then I would give it to them. But I wouldn't just say like Luffy would be or Zoro would be Wolverine because he would throw Wolverine into space. Like just because he can doesn't mean like that's a thing he does.
Well, like I had for one argument, like I think as an accident it would happen because say that Zoro.
Well, we can't say it's an accident because he doesn't accidentally chop people into space either.
Well, no, let me say why it would be. Let's assume that because adamantium's cracked in terms of what it can survive being hit by.
Yeah.
Let's say Zoro can't cut through Wolverine for a sec. Like he can't. Let's just say that. If someone has a reason why he could, that's not the thought exercise. Because he can hit with like the force of several nukes, if not like enough power to cut through an island itself. If you just effectively turned Zoro's sword into a baseball bat and swung it as hard as Zoro is able to swing his sword and hit
One Piece? Zoro? Wait, what?
Like I'm using this as an example, like cutting through or something, and it turns it into a baseball bat and it hits Wolverine. Wolverine would get knocked back like he was a baseball, and like you would be, and so just as a byproduct, as an accident, he might be launched into space if you ran the numbers.
That's why Hulk's gonna win because he's gonna throw Asura into space as he's been known to do.
Honestly, average Wolverine side plot.
And that's my first argument right there. He just wins by BFR. GG. I don't think Asura can fly.
But he can breathe in space.
What do you mean?
What are you saying? Asura can fly.
I was gonna say.
Well, then why is he always climbing the pillars?
Because he likes the challenge.
Because like he can fly in my opinion, he can glide when there is gravity. Otherwise, if there isn't gravity, he can just fly normal, like because he's just a propeller. Otherwise, he glides. But can I?
So maybe space isn't the best BFR for us.
Yeah, but can I?
Yeah, I mean, like, if I remember correctly, Asura the Destructor flies through like all the space in order to reach the Chakravartin statue and then punch it.
Can I? Now can I? Now I want to do the thing, a bit. That I want to say like the size, like because he wouldn't need to fly back, depending on how hard he got thrown.
Okay.
Let's see.
What do you want me to bring an image up or?
Yep. I go ahead and post, Asura Destructor. People know what the Destructor looks like, but I just want to show like how freaking big it is, and then like apply a funny thing to it. Asura Destructor size. So before going off of this image, and before applying any idea of perspective, that and you go off of like, okay, human hand is X wide and all of that. That going off of those ratios, going off of this image, Asura at bare minimum before you apply anything is going to be 26,666 kilometers tall, which is like 14,000 kilometers taller than Earth.
So what you're saying is Hulk would throw Asura into space, and then it would look like Asura's coming back, but he's not. He's actually just growing bigger faster than he is shrinking by being thrown in the distance. And
yeah,
he would
in
just...
all actuality, I think he's like probably 30,000 kilometers tall, like because of the perspective, because further away something is,
30,000 kilometers means nothing to me. Like, what? How is he bigger than Earth?
Put that into freedom units.
Okay, Earth's diameter is, I believe, 12,756. So if you
he's like
doubled it, no, like 3 Earths is 36,000. No, that would be 3 Earths is 39,000. So he is like two and a half
between
Earths.
2 and 3 Earths in size.
So he's like 2.5 times the size of Earth.
Good.
Like before, which
good
is
thing
huge.
that Savage Hulk has jumped into space and destroyed a meteor twice the size of Earth, so he is used to fighting things that size.
Okay, so yeah, I love that panel, by the way, but that's not what I wanted to say. Like size wise, can you post?
I will say someone asked if Savage Hulk is the same as Mindless Hulk. They are different characters. Savage Hulk and Mindless Hulk are. Savage Hulk is still a personality inside of Hulk's mind. That's kind of like the default Hulk. Like, we have, like... When you think of the Hulk at base, Savage Hulk is basically what you think of most of the time. Mindless Hulk is when there's no personality at all, and it's just kind of the body doing its own thing. Sorry, please continue what you were saying.
So... If you... Like, I was not able to... I forgot to do this earlier. But like, can you post Asura Mantra arms?
Mantra arms?
Yes.
I don't think you sent me that.
It's literally right below destructor size.
Oh, you've just sent it to me. Well, explain.
No, like if you there is the
okay.
There's moon distance.
I didn't see that.
There's wizard lizard.
I will begin to grab it. Explain what it is while I grab it.
Okay, so the image will show. Like in episode 11.5, Long Road Ahead, I believe it was called, because Asura is fighting the Goma army and getting eviscerated, like, and as he's fighting with the one sword, he is able to create mantra arms. This is when he's borderline berserk, at least how it's portrayed, and these mantra arms are that big. Sorry for the quality, but I kind of grabbed it quickly. That a striker. That the thing that is in the foreground, giant like turtles. It's like a snake neck turtle.
Yeah.
That thing is 11,000. No, not 11,000. 1,100 meters tall. That is 10 Godzillas. For reference.
So massive. He can make a big arm. Else is massive?
So he can make an arm that is 550 times larger than himself, and then can. Which, if with that in mind, that if you apply that ratio to his destructor size, he can create mantra arms 1,650,000 kilometers long, which means he could fit the which is 4 times the distance between the Earth and the Moon. So he could be 4 times the distance away from the planet Earth, as like.
So he can make a really big arm.
So he can be 4 times the distance away from Earth that the Moon is, and still punch Hulk.
So the big arm, big whoop. I don't think a big arm's gonna be enough to take down the Hulk. He doesn't care how big you are. He's gonna be stronger than that.
Yeah, like how powerful is he? Because I did a lot of debating already for how powerful Asura is.
So Savage Hulk, 60s Hulk does have a lot of uni feats just to start things off. One time he fought an opponent that could control all the metal in the universe, so that's already cool. that's like probably like multi-galaxy level-ish. There is one character that has like all the energy of the universe, which I think would actually be stronger than Universal. But this guy, whose name I can't remember, I think he's like, I don't know, he's just some guy that like has all the energy of the universe inside of him, and then Hulk just like he gets hit by Hulk gets hit by that, and he calls it bee stings. Like Hulk is like he does not care about your clout or like the fact that you've conquered hundreds of planets or whatever. So Universal plus attacks being bee stings, I feel is pretty impressive at a base level.
Yeah,
But I think for some higher scaling that would actually compete with this is that he does fight, Thor a lot. To give it like I think the most pressing fight with Thor is one time Thor was like, "All right, I'm gonna fight you 1-to-1, no magic, no hammer." Which is kind of why Thor always wins, just because he has more tools at his trade. He was like, I'm going to give you a fair fight, 1-on-1, just scrapping. And Thor's like, this rage, this fury, this is like nothing I've ever faced before. Which is impressive, because earlier he fought Hercules, and there's a really funny statement where their fist class was like the most powerful punch ever seen in creation. And that is the 60s at this point, so it's not like some crazy feats yet, but that's still pretty wild considering that like Odin is around and doing stuff.
Ooh, can I say one thing real fast? I love the art style of this era very much, and I would love if there was like an animated series of this like that was done in this art style.
Yeah, that would actually be really cool. Like you get to see a bunch of
X-Men
different
cartoon, but with like Thor.
Yeah, 60 Styles Adventures.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
something like the 60 Spider-Man show, except it's done except it's done today. That would be cool. I'd pay
isn't
to
it
see
what
that.
they're doing with Friendly Neighborhood? It looks kind of 60s-ish, and that's
Kind of like it's more so trying to replicate like comic books as a whole, in my opinion. But like,
So I found the scan. This is where Hercules gave Thor a punch that was the most powerful blow ever inflicted upon man or immortal. So that's a pretty crazy statement that Hulk is stronger than that. But also, I just kind of like this scene because Odin's watching this whole thing. Because Thor basically prayed to Odin before this fight and was like, normally I can only have my powers for 1 minute without the hammer. Father, please give me 5 minutes so I can fight him 1-on-1 for a little bit. And Odin gave it, so he's watching this whole thing. I just love his reaction in this first image. He's like, oh shit, y'all seeing this? He's got the drink out, he's taking a chill, he's just like, man, this shit's crazy.
Oh shit!
Like this. Okay, this is like
Come
the
on,
Kermit
Hercules,
meme.
win! I got money riding on you.
This is the Kermit meme. You know, with T, he's like.
And the say that's important is Odin says, never have I seen him so close to defeat. So it's just like, just kind of saying like, this is like definitely a Thor level opponent Hulk is. It's actually really funny because Thor was like, the magic of his hammer was gone for the fight. Like that's how it works. And so it doesn't have like all the enchantments or whatever. But it is still like an Uru hammer. Like an Uru is a crazy durable. Thor like threw it at Hulk just to start the fight. Hulk like deflected it and he actually like picked it up. He was like, haha, I've become strong enough to pick it up because he doesn't know the context. And Thor's like, it doesn't matter. Hulk starts bending this Uru hammer, and Thor's like, oh shit, he's about to break it. I need to stop him from doing that.
Yeah.
So
okay,
Hulk
I'm just
almost
imagining
casually destroyed an
Thor's
Uru
looking
hammer.
at Hulk doing that with like the fucking Chris Griffin meme, like that shock.
There is, I think, by the way, I love this version of the Hulk a lot, but I think he's still pretty strong in terms of like, if you had like a tier list of the Hulks, he's probably like B in my opinion.
In terms of strength?
Yeah, like if you put every single version of the Hulk.
I mean, if we're using every version or I would say he's probably the weakest when it comes to like comics, because he only really gets stronger from here.
Oh, someone mentioned me.
I think he's like, that's why I think this is a good fight for Asura, where he's a lot weaker than a lot of like the OP comic feats, but he's still stronger than like any of like the movies or cartoons. Anyway, the reason I say this is because Death Battle said Thor was strong enough to blow up 2 million universes.
Yeah, which...
Long story short, 2 million universes is like the baseline right now. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, like, but I go off the idea of like going off of the idea that mantra E equals MC squared. Like Asura could be 7 quintillion times universal with the, at least in terms of mass energy equivalent, uh, because that statue is just made out of mantra, like turned into metal, and that same mantra energy Chakra Punch is throwing around, and that's before applying the rapid accelerated growth that we know Asura to have. But if we're going with the just the idea of the destruction of that statue, like that 25 times one is going to put his power level at 2 point. Actually, it's, oh my god, that's kind of getting close. I plugged that in real fast, and that becomes 2,275,000.
So can you bring up that number again specifically?
2,200,075,000. So
that's
2
interesting
million.
because this is 2,300,000.
Yeah, but
So
that's
we could
after
say
10.
like it. There's a possibility that they're just like at a
Or-
similar level of strength, which is actually kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like going off of that episode, which I think that's a little like low ball, but like I think 60s is a lot weaker than
Yeah.
what like the cosmology grows into. So I'm fine giving that number, and it comes up close, which then it leads into another image I want to share. How good of a fighter, like I think Thor is like, Thor is not like a martial artist or anything. Not
Thor, I would say
He
Thor and
is a
Hercules
Viking
are
warrior.
actually incredibly skilled.
yeah,
I don't
like,
think Hulk is as skilled as them.
yeah.
So like it would be heavy downscaling because it's just kind of like he is a lot stronger than them, so they kind of have to compensate with skill. But he would still be semi-relative because they're weaker than him, but they're not way weaker than him. Like if he would have to be somewhat skilled in like wrestling and stuff in order to do the stuff he does.
Yeah, so
I would argue Hercules and Thor are more skilled than Asura, but I would say maybe Asura is more skilled than Hulk.
yeah,
That's
I think
possible.
Asura is more skilled than the Hulk by a decent margin. You could pull up the image if you want, but I posted. It's called Asura Tiger Style Kung Fu. Going off of the general idea is he's heavily based off of Chinese mythology, or like or spiritualism, whichever. And a big part of like Chinese culture is like martial arts and kung fu, as far as I understand. And so they probably incorporated a good amount of that into him for his animations and his fighting style. And going off of how he holds his hands a lot of the time and a lot of his fluid motions, I do think Asura's main fighting style before going into brawling, like if you had to give him like a martial art, would be tiger style kung fu and like brawling. It's really prominent in like those little like when you fight Akuma and Ryu before like you go into while you're doing like the Street Fighter sections of those fights, like the way he's moving would like seem very kung fu like in those. So that's why I say like he's not just a brawler. I think he very much knows this martial art.
I think it is possible that Asura, in just purely a technical sense, would be the superior fighter of the two.
Yeah.
But I do think that Hulk is not completely eclipsed in terms of skill.
Yeah.
I think that his ability to fight people like Hercules, and Hercules has like statements of being like the greatest like skilled fighter in all of the cosmos, which would scale him above some crazy skilled Marvel martial artists. And the fact that Hulk can kind of just keep up with like his power set would imply to me that like maybe Asura could pull like some tricks on him that Hulk's not expecting, but that's not going to be enough to actually win him the fight. I think Hulk's generally just like ability to overpower people would kind of like, make that a very small factor.
Yeah, so how like I don't think how powerful I don't my main thing I'm trying to think like the question for me would be like, okay, how fast does a Hulk grow in power? Because I think starting out also maybe like a decent bit weaker, give him 10 minutes, he would be equal to Hulk. But if Hulk is also like Hulk would not be getting as angry as Asura would be at that point, but then when they meet each other's power, how fast does the Hulk's power amplify?
I think
That's
I
a good
have some
question.
stuff that would like are a pretty big deal when it comes to how fast they grow. But I just want to touch on like who would be growing in power faster, just
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm going over.
thematically. Hulk just kind of gets mad at like not being able to win a fight. Where I feel like Asura's wrath is a lot more focused on like personal stuff. So I feel like there's an argument to be made that in a death battle, depending on what the motivations are, Hulk would always be at like his maximum growth rate. Just if Asura was like beating him up at skill wise, he would like just get mad at that.
Well,
Whereas
well,
Asura
Asura,
has a lot less motivation to get that mad at Hulk and
well,
power up like that.
Asura's power does not no longer just goes up by his wrath. Like it wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not like he doesn't need to just get angry. He could get like melancholic about it, and that would amplify his power. He could get greedy about it, and that would amplify his power. I don't know how you get greedy in a fight, other than like, oh, you get hype about it,
Mm.
because, and this is a super cool detail. When he's fighting Chakravartin in the very end, his mantra affinity is purely wrath. Like after he gets his mantra arms blown off, at least, because like he's like, okay, I'm throwing out everything. I'm just mad as shit. But when he fought his brother Yasha, he's not angry about that fight, and that's represented in the color that his mantra is, because his mantra color there is rainbow.
Okay.
Which by the way, that's just a cool thematic thing, because you were talking about thematics and like the idea, like it's such a thing that you don't think about, but once you actually like it clicks in your mind, blows your mind, and this is why Azura's Wrath is one of the best video games ever made.
True. Please play it, everyone.
As someone
Please,
just
yeah.
said in the comments, play any fighting game, then you'll see what greedy fighting is.
Yeah,
They
so,
make a fair point on what greedy fighting would look like. I agree.
Yeah,
with
so-
that.
Can't argue with that.
so you're saying like, oh, Asura needs like a specific or more specific reason to get his power to amplify. I think that is true, but since he has more ways to amplify thanks to having so many mantra affinities, I think once again it would kind of like even out.
So I guess just to talk about the scale of Hulk's growth, is that the thing with the Hulk's growth is that it's actually infinite in size when it gets to like how fast it can grow. When he was fighting Thor, he didn't actually get much stronger. Like Thor was kind of fighting like a base Hulk. Like it wasn't like Thor was beating him up in the beginning and Hulk got strong enough to match him. Hulk just off rip is kind of Thor level.
Yeah,
When we get to him growing in strength, and I think this is the big thing. Like I think this happens in, I had the issue number but I forgot it. But basically, this is actually the feat they brought up in Broly versus Hulk, but it's actually way more impressive than they said there. Hulk is sent to the Nightcrawler's dimension by some cultists. And the Nightcrawler like brawls with him and he's like, "Oh, this is a hassle. I don't want to do this." So he starts using hacks on the Hulk. He's like, "I'm going to make it dark so you can't see. And then I'm going to make it so like that you can never actually touch me no matter what you do." And Hulk got so mad that he did a thunderclap, which destroyed the Nightcrawler's entire dimension. And why this is important is the Nightcrawler's dimension is completely outside of space and time. It is a realm that cannot be traveled to with distance, and it is a realm that you cannot... It is an infinite... At a low ball, it's an infinitely sized realm. There's arguments for it being 5D, but at like an incredible low ball, this is just like a realm that's infinite in size. And Hulk got so pissed that he just clapped and the entire realm was destroyed. So I would say if we start getting into how much they grow, Hulk could just become infinitely stronger if he gets mad.
Well, there are infinite, like, can you post, the question is, did he, like, thunderclap and they, like, push them out of it, or did it say, like, and the universe is destroyed?
The realm was just gone. His realm no longer existed, and he's like, "Well, fuck, I guess I'll have to conquer Earth instead because my realm no longer exists."
Okay, like, because you don't have the scans, like, I don't, like, I would like to, like, that sounds really interesting.
I mean, I
Also
can,
does-
like, find it if you really want it,
No.
but...
Yeah, you can share that later with me. Like, I'm not saying you're lying.
I'll send it to you. I'll put it in the post show.
There
No,
is-
I will say it. Sherm, I think you're lying.
like I don't, because there could be
Who
context where
said
it's like,
that?
because it sounds like if
Oh, again, shy now? Shy now that I've got my finger over the mute button? Alright.
it just sounds like because he was able to, because he got pulled into that dimension. It sounds like him thunderclapping pushed
Well,
them.
to be
out
fair,
back out.
Bruce Banner got pulled into that dimension, and then he turned into a
Uh,
Hulk while he was there.
Okay, yeah, but like in my mind, if I was right, like it from my mind, it could be like, oh, you knocked us out of the dimension again. Which, if that is the context, can you
That's not
post?
what happened.
Like, no, I'm saying if it was, like, it would be like a really hilarious parallel. Because, can you post Asura punching out of Naraka?
Oh no.
There.
Asura's
sure-
able to punch out of Naraka, which is stated to be endless, and Chakravartin is described as being omnipotent several times. I'm not like, which I'm not going to say like that just automatically makes him infinite. They're like, but I feel like there's enough that you could argue it, especially since he's able to, going off the idea he is confident to go hit the other heavy hitters within the Capcom multiverse that we talked about earlier. The idea of him being infinite and being able to create an infinite place, especially since he's able to create a statue 7 quintillion times the mass of the universe just by waving a hand effectively. What's there to say that Naraka isn't infinite other than, well, there's only one statement? Like,
well, he does climb out of Naraka by just like climbing.
yeah,
I feel like
and so that
a
could
good
be
reason
like,
to be like perhaps not actual infinity.
well, like, well, I don't think. Well, the reason he's able to climb out of Naraka, like, it's a mixture of his power level and his willpower, but it's also a combination of Chakravartin at that time guiding him out, because there's a description going over the Golden Spider. It's like Golden Spider, age, question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't have that scan. And it says, this helped guide his soul out of Naraka. But this shot is when, in their final fight, Chakravartin goes like, okay, I'm going to just send you to Naraka. I don't need to kill you. I'm going to send you to hell. And he pulls Asura into Naraka, and he's fighting a giant statue inside of Naraka as they're falling through it. And Asura goes like, I'm going to just punch really hard, and I'm going to break this dimension.
That is funny. I
don't think he's destroying Naraka. I think he's just punching out of it.
That is possible.
Like, but how does that make sense that you're able to punch a non-existent dimensional wall?
You could argue it's just like a weird illusion he's putting Asura in, but it is possible that he just punched hard enough to like
punch out of Naraka.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
It is
Like,
also possible we are dealing with people that can destroy universes. Depending on how big you think Naraka is, he could be strong enough to just destroy Naraka.
Yeah, like I don't think he. I think he killed the dude
Someone's
who
asking.
created
This
it.
is not X-Men Nightcrawler. This is a different Nightcrawler.
I was going to ask that earlier.
Oh,
okay.
he's a Doctor
I was
Strange
worried
villain.
For a second.
So honestly, this sounds actually really close. Like the '60s Hulk versus Asura. Like it doesn't sound like this.
That Hulk would always have the strength edge, because if you were to say that like actually Naraka is infinite in size, I would then say, well, you could actually interpret the Nightcrawler's dimension to being like 5D, depending on. So if you're generous to both or trying to lowball both, Hulk would always be a step ahead, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I don't think it's like a stomp, and there. I would give part of this is like I hate imagining like what's the cosmology of like DMC, because I think you could. Like I hate that because like
it's possible
like,
Dante could be Hulk. I'll give that, but I've not been convinced that Asura is as strong as Dante.
Like no, like again, like that's very loose. Like that is we were bringing that up as a meme argument.
Yeah.
It's more of a if it is true that Chakravartin can sense the cosmology that is Capcom,
if you
and
were
he
to,
can.
if you were to
What if
genuinely
he's just heavily underestimating Dante, and then he goes to DMC and then says,
yeah, what if Chakravartin just shows up there because he's overconfident, Dante
is
just one-shots him?
Yeah,
He just
and then
shoots
Dante just shows
Chakravartin
up,
away.
beats his ass, and then eats some pizza, and then says, "Hell yeah!" Like
there is a potential like Chakravartin underestimating people, like is part of his character, like, but there's also, like, if he was able to like, even if he was able to fight Dante and it's like back and forth for a little bit, I feel like you could like like almost scale him to Dante. Like again, there's nothing saying this. The only way that this would be confirmed if it, I would only say yes, this is concrete if there was like a DLC or a secret boss where Chakravartin or Asura show up in other Capcom games. This is purely like if you take this at face value and believe that he is confident enough to fight other heavy hitters of Capcom, you could. I'm like, there's a giant if at the very beginning of all of that. Like, but I think Chakravartin could be argued to be 4D, maybe like because he can control time, he can control the concepts of life and death. He created an infinite size place.
I will
And
say,
he's described as omnipotent several times.
if we want to go that route, and you want to say like maybe Chakravartin is similarly empowered to being able to destroy the Nightcrawler's dimension, it is also possible, and this I don't know if this is fully likely, but there are reasons we could scale Hulk in terms of strength to Odin, because one time Loki teleported Hulk to Asgard because Loki's an asshole. And Hulk was beating up pretty much everyone. Like, he was beating up, like, I think Thor wasn't there, but he was beating up the Warriors 3. He was beating up Heimdall. Odin showed up, and Hulk was like, you want to run the hands? And Odin's like, you're too much trouble. I'm just going to BFR you. And why this is important is that Odin doesn't normally do that. Like, Odin is perfectly fine running the Fade if he wants to. Like, he beats everyone up. But with Hulk, he was like, you're too much trouble, and he just warps him back to Earth. It is possible that Odin didn't actually need to fight him. But it is possible he could have posed, like, in terms of just, if Odin was to run the hands instead of using hacks, he could be a threat to Odin. That is possible.
Is he roboting for anyone else?
Who?
Do I sound okay? Test 1 2. Can you hear me?
Sound good?
All right.
It could just okay.
TLDR,
later,
Hulk might scale to Odin.
Like, I don't think my reasoning why he wouldn't is like, I forget what instance it was, but this was like a more, I'm gonna say more modern, but this was probably like early 2000s, maybe 90s, where like Odin punches him once. No, it was Zeus, and Zeus and Odin are side by side basically, and Zeus just punches him once. Like like he runs the Fade with all of Olympus, and then he gets to Zeus, and Zeus is like, "Dude, you're an idiot," and he goes like, "Boom," and then he's just down. He's like, that's so.
I will say that is, I'm pretty sure that was Doc Green Hulk, who might be weaker than Savage Hulk. That actually no, they might be similar in strength.
Yeah, like if I'm like
I
that's
think it's
my
possible
reasoning.
Savage Hulk he doesn't have the same rage as Savage Hulk, so they start at similar levels. But Savage Hulk has that like infinite growth because of his anger. So it is possible if he was angry enough, he could have fought Zeus.
Okay, when you
Odin.
say infinite anger, do you mean like, oh, his anger can increase infinitely, or do you think like he goes like, okay,
he can
I'm at
become
one, and now
angry
I'm
enough to become infinite in strength? Is what I'm trying to say. He can become angry enough to destroy the infinite Nightcrawler realm.
Yeah, like, and there is the argument that Asura could do similar. Like, I think this is really close. Like, I feel like I'm good with going to the vote now.
I do want to bring up. I can't put up the vote, but I do want to bring up one thing because I think it's funny. I'll just make the vote. I was expecting you to say like Asura has better like battlefield movement. Like he could just like he could be the one to throw Hulk into space, and then like Hulk couldn't do anything. But I actually have a counter to that.
Yeah. Okay,
it's hard to talk and make a poll at the same time.
Oh, yeah, by the way, while you're bringing that up, like, so earlier I talked about like how big like Asura could become, and like how big like he's like that giant arm that he could make. Also in that same episode of 11.5 creates like thousands upon thousands of little fists. Going at the scale I was describing, each of those fists would be like the size of a moon. And I'm in my mind, because this Hulk, Savage Hulk, is kind of famous for like one of his more famous things is punching an asteroid twice the size of Earth. it would be such a cool visual of him like leaping Montrefist to Montrefist, punching them and exploding them as he's jumping.
There's definitely some really cool things you can do with the visuals of this fight. Like, it seems weird. I don't think this is a lot of people's preferred for either, but this matchup does make a lot of sense. Also, Hulk can fly.
Are you gonna post that one out of context comic panel where it's like by sheer?
No. Here he jumped. The context before this panel is he jumped.
Wait, what the
As
fuck?
his leap begins to
Did he
lose
just
momentum,
change his trajectory mid-air?
his cold, brutish eye
Let's
sees
go.
a foreboding sight. Oh no, they're stuck. That is him. Like, he moved. He is parallel to the rails right now. Not only does he swoop down, he also swoops to the left. And that's not the only. I have another. Also, like, he like flew to chase a car once. Like, first off, like, let's talk about this for a second. He jumped, and then number one, he's just going through the city like Superman. Like, let's talk about the angle there. But then he hears Rick, who was outside. I don't know. He looks like he's about to jump into the river based on the second panel. But then he like,
This motherfucker is
Can you
doing
just stay
the
on this one for a
Foxy
second?
Snap
Because
jump
I'm
scare.
looking at that like the bottom two, and I'm just imagining the guys like wait, like it's almost exactly what it's like. It's like they're like, "Haha, we got out of here." Like, what's
he is
that
just
rearview mirror?
flying
Oh
down
my
the road to
God.
get to them.
Foxy jump scare.
There's also,
I know.
do you not have that panel where it's like by sheer muscle
I have that
control, he
panel, but
bent-
that's
he
like not the most
bends
impressive.
physics.
I have the proof. I don't need a visual. I just have proof. Here he's doing it. He can fly.
Well, can I say something with the previous panel you showed? I have a feeling that they were trying to do like a different hero, and like they're like, well, we already drew it. Can we make it into Hulk?
You think this was a different person?
Yeah, I think this was supposed to be a new hero or a different hero that got like canceled or something.
Well, see,
And,
here's
like,
the thing.
hey,
I
we
actually
already
found
did the pencil work.
While I was doing
That's
research,
honestly not a
I
bad
actually
theory.
found this article that was like, Hulk's powers you didn't know about. He can fly in the 60s. And I was like, this feels relevant to look into. And there's
Well,
actually
like,
this really well, I don't know if you would call it feels more like a blog we would make, where it's basically just, here's all the evidence. I'm a big fan of 60s. He has such control over his flight that he can basically fly when he's jumping. And I was like,
Yeah,
this
but-
is amazing. I have to include some of this. I'm
Yeah,
going to
I
link that in this video down in the description. I forgot to do that. I'm going to edit that when we're done. It's a great article. It's hilarious. But yeah, so Hulk can fly is something I wanted to add to. I don't know if that swayed the vote, but it's funny.
Like one argument I was gonna say is like, Asura could in theory, like, if he's not destroying Naraka when he punches it, he's just punching out of it. He could in theory punch into Naraka. Hulk jumps in after him, and then Asura goes like, haha, loser, and then like punches out of Naraka.
That's bad for Asura, because if Hulk's in Naraka, he's just gonna clap and then Naraka's gone, and then there goes his respawn.
Well, like, he doesn't have to go to Asura's regeneration. I think I'll share that as one of my final last thing, I guess. I didn't give it a name. It's
Just
right
an
before
image.
it's right before Asura Destructor Size, like right before it.
Is this like I'll try to find it. You explain your point.
Asura in the manga, like he can regenerate, like half his body gets blown off. Like he's fighting Yasha in their second fight in the manga, and half of his body destroyed. He had his mantra core ripped out. This is just like an instance of him coming back from the dead in like a second. But I couldn't find that panel like as fast. But half of his body is gone, including an arm. I do think this is part of that panel. But like he loses like massive chunks of his body, like half of his body's gone, and then he was like, okay, it's either his pure regeneration or part of his resurrection, where like most of his body just instantly pops back. So his regeneration is pretty nutty. So like we know modern Hulk has insane regen.
I will
What
say this
about
is like kind of a question about how we would want to use the Hulk if we were to limit it to the 60s, because in the Immortal Hulk run,
Yeah,
it
he's
does
insane.
essentially retcon his resurrection to being attached to the Green Door. So that's not like he grew. This isn't like he was this level in the 60s and then he grew stronger. This is like it retcons it. would we include the Green Door if we're using exclusively 60s Hulk?
I
Because, like,
think
lore-wise, it is technically he has access to the Green Door, but that's a change that was made in the 2010s, 2020s.
I think as long as it doesn't change how powerful he is, and it's more of just the explanation for how his power works, I think it's fine. In my personal opinion, but that's up to other people. Like,
I'm not going to stand by the super strong, but I think if you give him the Green Door, then he has better regeneration than Asura, because number one, it's instant, and number two, it doesn't even need any of his body to remain. He can just, it just needs his soul to be in hell. This is another weird thing they did with Broly, is they said he needed some part of his body to come back. He doesn't. The body can be completely gone because the soul's in hell. He'll just go through the Green Door and his body will come back.
yeah, Asura, I think he needs part of his body to remain. In the manga, he gets cut in half at a point, and then, like, you know, in the scene in the game where, like, Yasha goes like, he's like, and all of this is meaningless, and like cuts him in half. Like, it's in the game, it's just like, oh, it's just a big laser down his body. In the manga, he gets cut the fucking half, and his body.
Even if you don't give Hulk the Green Door, he can still regenerate from his skeleton. Is something I'll say. Please continue.
Oh, I was gonna say, when that gets cut in half, and then it falls into the lava, and his body is in two different places, and then over the centuries, like, they just slowly move back together. I don't know to what level that applies. I don't know if it's like, if he's reduced to atoms, would his atoms like start trying to reconnect with one another to bring him back to life? I don't know to the extent. I just know at least his body does have a weird property where when he's dead, does try to reform itself from whatever is remaining. I don't know if that goes down to like the size of a penny, or does it go down to a molecule?
The one final point I'll make, and then we can go into the votes if you're cool with
Yep.
this, is
Yeah,
I
I'm
do
good.
think Hulk actually has some ways to keep Asura down, if not for ever, at least for like a significant amount of time. Is that number one, he can like absorb energy. It's very loose in the 60s. It rarely happens, but he can absorb energy a little bit. So he could absorb mantra to a little degree. He could absorb a little bit, and that would be enough to like make it that it would take at least like 10 years or something for him to come back.
Can he do it to something like its soul? So it like, but it is described as an energy that like interacts with the world. Like, you know how the Green Door is like, oh, this is soul energy. It just comes into reality as gamma. Like, mantra is very.
This is another thing I did. This is a thing from Immortal Hulk, but one time Joe Fixit, who was just in Bruce Banner form, basically what happened is normal Hulk was hit with a bunch of power cosmic, and that like weakened him enough that he turned back into Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner's ego is associated with gamma energy, so he switched to a different ego in his mind that did not have a Hulk associated with it, and then that ego absorbed the power cosmic, and then Joe Fixit essentially became a red Hulk that was empowered by power cosmic instead of being empowered by gamma energy.
Yeah,
I don't know if Savage Hulk could do that, but I just thought that was fun to bring up. So,
well,
if this was a Mortal Hulk, we could get a mantra version of Joe Fixit or something, which would be really funny.
Yeah. Oh wait, what's? It's just a default power that most of the demigods in Asura's Wrath have. They can just grab souls.
The Hulk can also do that.
Okay, so they're both like they're
They
gonna
can
have a tug
both
of
just
war.
grab souls. And he does interact with Doctor Strange a lot, where he can just like see souls, he can grab them, and he can just do stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they can both do that, which is just funny. It's like, I got your soul, I got yours. They just hand it back, like, sorry,
They
my
just-
bad.
So I do think that's like a thing. Like, also, if he ever somehow winds up in Naraka, he could just clap it away. That's my final argument. So I guess we'll move on to votes. Moloch, between I think what is inarguably the closest version of this debate. Who do you think wins between the Savage 60s Hulk and Asura? Moloch?
Well, it's tough because I know the higher cosmology is there, but during the 60s it wasn't there, if that makes sense.
It wasn't really part of the story.
Yeah.
Right, but this is probably the closest of the two so far. And with everything this close, I'm going to give a slight edge to Asura just for better fighting skills and having a lot more experience.
Yeah. I didn't even touch on the experience. Like, he's probably hundreds of thousands of years old. Like,
That is
Oh yeah,
fair.
true.
I didn't bring that up because like they both fought people like as old as the universe. So like I don't think that matters too much. Like it's a slight edge, but it's not like oh more experience. Like they both fought people who have been as old as the universe. So like him being more experienced gives a slight edge in that category. But like even if he's like 250,000 years old, that doesn't tip it completely.
Hulk does not have a ton of experience. You don't gotta be that strong to deal with him.
Well,
Alright. How about you, Moloch? Are you back?
I am back. I've actually been listening the whole time.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you before. Who do you think wins between Savage 60s Hulk and Asura?
As funny as the flying was, I think I am actually going to give it to Ashura this time. I feel like I don't know. Just something about the
Alpha
60s Hulk.
vibes?
Yeah, honestly, it was just something about the 60s Hulk that it felt kind of. I don't know how to put it.
not as like not as buck wild is the answer.
I mean, compared to the Hulks before, no, but like it was still impressive. Like I still understand, like he's pretty strong, but I actually think in this case, I can actually see Ashura pulling the win out against this Hulk.
Okay. Dark Lore Master, what are you thinking?
Okay, I'm gonna be a contrarian here and say I actually think 60s Hulk would win. So from what I've heard, at least, 60s Hulk should always have a notable strength, and a notable strength. He should be notably stronger. Whether you take universe destruction into mind, or even their infinite feats of destroying, like infinite spaces, Hulk should always be able to punch. He should always be stronger to the point where. Asura will always be on the backhand, and both of them will be getting stronger over the course of the fight. So I don't really see the strength advantage leaving Hulk's corner, and Hulk has enough abilities in both energy absorption and his flight, to where he could just match everything Asura has, and then just be able to land the finishing blow on Asura, winning the fight. So yeah, I think 60s Hulk wins.
Yeah, like I forgot to ask because is there any before we went into the vote, I was going to ask like, is there any questions about Asura or like the 60s Hulk that we could try to answer that solidify your answer? I forgot to ask that. So
no, not really.
Okay.
I will end the poll, and the poll has voted for 60s Hulk to win. So we have a tie, and
What
we
was the
don't need to
percentage?
bring in a tiebreaker because this whole format is non-standard. So I think we could just say in this scenario, we can call this version of the fight a tie.
I think it is borderline a tie. Going off the numbers, like it would be like
We didn't really
Hulk is
talk
way
about
strong-
speed, I guess, so that there could be like an
True.
argument there.
I think Asura is infinite. Like if we're going with the higher ends, lower ends, he's quintillions to maybe septillions. I think septillions is after quintillions if I'm doing math right.
I will
Like-
say that if we were to use speed, there is again, if I'm going to scale him to Thor again, is that Death Battle said he was this,
Okay.
which is let me just get the number I wrote down on my own time. That is 20 undecillion times the speed of light. And I also brought this up, which is undecillion is over here at the bottom and quintillion's at the top. So just to give a...
Well-
I forgot to bring that up. I feel like that would have helped me out in this debate a bit more.
Well, can I bring up my number that I calculated a little bit about
What
ago?
is your number you brought up for speed?
So remember how I said like going off the rate, like if he has to move, if his resurrection, he has to move, right? And if So going off the rate of how fast he can come back to life, and is this the post show? Or are we still
You can
in
make
show?
it. We can make it the post show if you want.
Okay, sure. Sure.
Thanks everyone for watching. This was the debate. Went on for a while, blast, because it was essentially 4 debates. Thank you so much for joining us. I think the question of which Hulk to use is interesting. I think it's a little unfortunate that it's not so simple because the matchup is really cool. But hey, I think the matchup is cool. Thanks for joining us. And if you want to watch the post show, that'll be uploaded at some point in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see for my first win. This does not break my streak, unfortunately. This is a sham of a debate. No, that's not fair to say. This is a very unorthodox debate. This would be like saying Vegito breaks the Vegeta loss streak. It's like that's not how that would work.
Honestly, like I think if you give Green Door, Hulk wins like by a sliver. If you don't, I think Asura wins. Like
it is an interesting debate if you use like the 60s version of him before he.
So
I think like
Yeah.
60s is just kind of what I did, so I had to research less. But I think you would basically the cutoff would be like before he goes to Sakaar and gets like all his gladiatorial training and World War Hulk status would be like the cutoff if you wanted to say like a more specific version. You could call the Savage Hulk, quote unquote.
Well, the number I was gonna go over is I asked people, like I couldn't post the math is the main reason I wasn't sharing it.
Save it for the